talking about the new symphony director in some city, and I forgot which. I think it's Pittsburgh. He got fired from. No, it's in Washington. That's right, Washington State. He got fired in Pittsburgh because he was too fiery. 70 years old. His name is Essen Rock. And they talked about his conducting techniques, et cetera, et cetera. And then they got to the heart of it. He was born in Nazi Germany in 1941. His mother died in childbirth. His father was soon arrested because he was not for the Nazi regime. And as a result, he got put into not a concentration camp, but a place for orphans of the war, I guess. And luckily, his aunt found him in this camp, and she found that he was mute. He was 5 years old by the time, and mute. He'd never spoken a word. And so she started playing the piano. She played some Chopin and some Liszt and other composers, and she would play every day, and he'd sit on the floor and just listen to her play. And finally, one day, without thinking, she said, "Would you like to learn how to play the piano?" And he spoke his first word and said yes. And the healing process began. And he did an interview on the radio about the power of the music, bringing him out of that muteness, because he had seen and heard so many horrible things in his little life that he didn't want to speak about them. And so it was a whole transmutive process that occurred because of music. It's no less powerful than what happens to some students in your classes when you get into the teaching profession. I had never taught elementary school. In fact, when I graduated from college, I said, I'll never set foot in an elementary school. I'm too good for that. I'm going to be a high school corporate. Well, circumstances forced me into taking an elementary job 12 years ago. The most fun I ever had in my whole life. And for some reason, students with Asperger's, autism, seem to be drawn to me. And I had never experienced that before. And so through the music and the drumming and all the things that we did in the classroom, some of those kids were able to verbalize. And when that happens to you as a teacher, there is something that is changed inside. And I want you all to understand how powerful the subject matter you will be teaching is, because it is totally transformative. On Facebook all the time, former students from way back when I taught in Clayton County with Dr. Gregory will say, "You may not remember this, but this day in rehearsal you did this and this and this and this happened, and it changed my life." And you go, "Wow, I had no idea. I thought that was a bad rehearsal day." So take it to heart. If you want to be a teacher, understand the power of what you're doing. With that power comes a whole lot of responsibility. Because how many of you are planning to teach an area, elementary school, middle school? Bless your hearts. High school, college, adults, okay. So, if you're in that middle school, high school range, that's very dangerous for young teachers, because you have lots of power, and they soak it up and suck up everything that you say to them. And if you are very young, some of them are going to fall in love with you. And you're going to have to deal with it. You're going to have to be able to say to them, here's the line, don't cross that line. Because that's one of the things that will draw you out of the profession really fast without you having any control over it. There are two things that you should never get involved with
By the way, we had a director in a neighboring county lose his job 2 weeks ago because of this Facebook.
Oh, really? Yeah, you gotta watch that. Now, I made a rule that they could not friend me on Facebook until they graduated. And May the 29th was the day after I retired. I had like 300 requests because everybody said, "You're not teaching anymore, let's go for it." You know, you gotta be careful even if you're not teaching those people anymore. You gotta be careful about who you are. You know, do you want them to know who you really are? And the guy from Google was on, I think, Jon Stewart last night. And he was talking about the fact that anything that you have ever printed, put on the keyboard into any site is history forever. It's always there. So you gotta not only think before you speak, think before you act, think before you type now. Because I didn't know about that. That's sad.
Oh, it's tragic. We've had, and within the last year, maybe up to 5 experienced teachers that have either become involved with the students, or the students thought they were involved with them, or they put inappropriate stuff on Facebook. So which is, it's a no-brainer, they're gone.
Yeah. And think of all the hours you're putting in right now. You don't want to waste those. Because you got to go. All right. The handout. Let me talk to you a little bit. I put my home address. I put my cell phone number. I put my email address. And I put a website address up. Notice that the website address will not be active until the middle of October. That's because I had to change servers and I lost everything that I had already keyed in. I was going to release it today. But this is going to be a resource site for teachers, young teachers specifically. If you have a question, if you need some kind of referral, if you need anything, there will be a forum on this website that you can type in a question, and I will do my best to answer it. If I can't answer it, I'll send you to the people who can answer it. I've been
You said how valuable this is. What does she say to you? All you gotta do is send it. I mean, she can't answer. She got it.
And I'm on the committee for the website for the National MENC, so we can link back to anything that's on MENC in the archives also. So please feel free to use this as a resource. If you have to write a lesson plan for your elementary methods class, and you don't know any elementary stuff, give me a week or two to respond to you, but I'll give you some ideas. I'm not going to write it for you, but I'll tell you about some really cool songs. Okay? I put the national standards here. I hope you've seen them. I hope you've memorized them. Okay, good. That's great. Because I find that they are one of the most valuable tools I've ever had. They reminded me when I was teaching actively, they reminded me on a daily basis that when I'm in a choral rehearsal, I'm not just teaching a piece of music. I am teaching for the future of that person and his or her connection to music. So please utilize these. I think we're going to them because the state is using them for a basis for the new curriculum. So just put them there. Just, you'll have a copy of them forever. And what do you do with these standards? You use them every time you stand in front of a class. And that way you're not biasing your teaching on, I'm just going to teach my favorite pieces. I don't care what they can do. I'll just teach it to them and we'll just have rehearsals until we learn it. Well, that's not valuable to anybody. It doesn't help you grow as a conductor/educator. And it certainly doesn't give them the tools. And my philosophy has been, I guess, first 15, I was in an experimental lab. That's the way I feel about it. Because the first 15, you're still feeling your oats. Even though you think you've got all the answers, you don't. It's just a gradual process, and someday you get there and you go, well, I think I know about half of what should be done to do this job. It's a lifelong learner kind of thing. Now, I'm off my game here, and where was I? Help me. Where did we be off? Yeah. It'll come back. I'll come back to it. Maybe. I totally forgot what I was going to say. I'm so sorry. Anyway, I highly recommend that you use them, utilize them. Oh, yeah. I'm going to teach the piece. I'm going to teach the piece that I like, whether it works or not. That's it. And I was on the way to saying that we, as teachers, are actually more facilitators. We want to make sure that when our students walk out our door, they have something in hand that they didn't have before they came in. And they can be lifelong learners of whatever subject we're teaching. Guitar, music theory, band, orchestra, chorus. And we've given them a little bit of all of the tools based on these national standards. That's how I refer back to them a lot. Okay. When I was invited to come and speak, I asked Kristen to kind of do a little survey and see what y'all wanted me to say, what you wanted to know. And what you have in front of you are just some notes that I took based on the questions that she sent me. But before we do that, I'm going to ask you to take that blank piece of paper, and we're going to do a little survey. I want you to name 5 choral groups that are not related to a school.
Five choral groups not related to a school. What do you find defines a choral group more than one singer?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So doesn't have to be like Martin's?
Doesn't have to be. It could be a small ensemble. You could play Jeopardy. By the way, there's a good PowerPoint game that if you teach in Cherokee County, they'll give it to you. It's really cool. You could use it to play games. That's just an aside comment. All right, so I don't want to take up too much time. Just spit them out. Let's go.
Atlanta Vocal Project.
Atlanta Vocal Project. Atlanta Singers.
Swingle Singers.
Swingle Singers. Cool. Mormon Tabernacle Choir. Atlanta Symphony Orchestra Chorus. Yes.
Is the Vienna Boys Choir related to school?
Vienna Boys Choir is, well, sort of, but not really. They're professionals. And the Vienna Boy Choir would take you to the American Boy Choir, which would take you to the Boys Choir of Harlem. All right, anybody else have some others? How about Straight and a Chaser? Okay. Now I've got you in a different category, right? So come up with some more. All right. The reason I ask you to do this is that when I had student teachers come in, most of them were not aware that there were choral groups you could listen to. And you listen to it, the more you're gonna understand it and the better teacher you will become. Some of you are band track. I won't say this as a given, but it is highly possible that at some point in your career, you will be teaching chorus and band. And you need to be ready for it. If that happens to you, write this down. The first person you start looking and reading about is Russ Robinson. He's still at the University of Florida?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think
He
so.
used to be at Florida. Russell was band man who got converted, not by choice, but he was given the responsibility of doing a choir as a band director, and has written several books now on choral music, and he's done some really great arrangements of pieces from Renaissance all the way through vocal jazz. And he's done a couple of videos, DVDs. All right, so,
By the way, our MESC president, a couple ago, out of Texas, I can't remember her name, she came over to GMEA this session, but it was band directors, so you got it, now you're teaching choir.
Marcia Laird?
No, MESC.
National, okay.
She did the session on band directors, people got to teach choir. You have a job as choir director now. She had a terrific clinic on how it was to be done, these kinds of same sort of things.
Yes, and that's an aside too. Go to your state and Southern Division conventions and conferences. And don't just go and party. Go to the sessions. Confession, I was a University of Georgia student. I was the chaplain of my MENC chapter, and the first 3 times I went to GMEA, I didn't go to any sessions because I didn't realize what was happening. But there are some fantastic people who come to our state and talk about music ed, and you can learn so much just from sitting next to somebody and staying there for about 5 minutes after and talk to the neighbor one-on-one. Great thing to do. Okay, now, 5 outstanding choral conductors. My first name is spelled no. So how are the bed bugs, guys?
It was a very slow day in Atlanta news when it made the AJC, and he was used first of all, news from molesting, and then secondly, bed bugs, and one of them slow news day.
I'm afraid to go to New York these days because of that. Everywhere.
I was on CBS local news.
Creepy.
Any number of reasons make you afraid to go to New York with bed bugs.
Okay, anybody got some names?
I feel like I'm required to say it's Dr. McIntyre.
All right. Okay. I'll tell him you said so. Let's go beyond Reinhardt.
Russell Robinson.
Robert Shaw. I had the privilege of singing with Dr. Shaw for 10 years with the ASO Chorus. He's written several books, or he wrote several books. If you have an opportunity to read them, they're fascinating, absolutely fascinating, especially his theory on rhythm, singing rhythm. Anybody else? Okay, I'm going to give you some. Right now, in trace almost every really, really great choral conductor to one school. Anybody know what that school is? It's Westminster Choir College. It's part of Rider University. It's in Princeton, New Jersey. Robert Shaw was affiliated with Westminster for a while. And once a year in the summer, they have a choral conductors symposium. And they always have the very best there. I've attended that symposium twice. The person that first comes to my mind is Mr. Shaw, because I have a personal relationship with him. But if you talk to other choral directors, I would say that 8 out of 10 will mention Shaw as one of the most powerful conductors ever for choral music. His orchestras did not like him because he was a choral musician. And he taught his orchestra like he taught his choir, and they didn't like it. That's okay. They played for us anyway. At Westminster Choir College, there is a man by the name of Dr. James Jordan. Dr. Jordan is a fantastic conductor. He is even better at telling you how to conduct. So if you have a chance to go to the library and find some books written by James Jordan, he will take you on the right track. He's also written a very esoteric book about music called The Musician's Soul. And it is a powerful experience. There are meditations in the book that really took me to higher places. I can't say enough about Dr. Jordan. Positive. All right. Weston Noble. He was at Luther College in Wisconsin or Minnesota, one of those Midwestern states, forever. And now he is almost 90 and retired, sort of. But he's always at the choral symposium. And he has so much wisdom about choral singing. And Tim Seelig, do you know that name? Tim Seelig was at GMEA 2 years ago and did a whole series of workshops in the choral track. Dr. Tim was the director of the Turtle Creek Choral. Have you ever heard of the Turtle Creek Choral? Okay, you got to listen to them. It's a men's ensemble of almost 200 men, and they're fabulous. Do you know the series Landscapes? You ever heard it? Well, that's who started Landscapes, singing Landscapes. Tim has written several books. One, The Perfect Rehearsal, has everything in it that you would ever want to know about timing a rehearsal, how to sequence your rehearsal. It's a great, 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 great resource. So how many did I give you? 4? I figured you would have 1. So you did, Dr. McIntyre. All right. Just an aside about this whole choral conducting. When I graduated from college, the man that was my college director, Dr. James Dooley, stood about 75 feet tall. And he was on a real high pedestal. And I did not want to do anything that Dr. Dooley had not done. I wanted to be just like Dr. Dooley. And I remember telling him that, and him saying, you need to explore a little bit, you know. And charging me to look out for other things that I could learn from other conductors. That's why I want you to do some exploration about watching other conductors other than Dr. McIntyre or your high school teacher. And pick up, use everything that you can find. I used to be so worried about this until Weston Noble said, they can count. Give them the feeling. And so then I started doing this. And then I went to Dalcroze. Have you all explored with Dalcroze at all? musician, but for anybody. And I'm sure they have some books in the library about that. But yeah, go out, watch others, go to a symphony concert and watch Spano. You gotta be careful, cause he's ahead by half a beat. It drives me nuts. He's one of those conductors who's like, oh no, we're not singing with him. Yeah. Any questions about anything that I've talked about so far? Yes.
This information, the books and the people that you're giving and stuff by the literature that they wrote, is it appropriate for all levels of choir?
Yep.
Children's?
Yep.
Okay,
Mhm.
great.
Sealing is more for adults. There's a woman here in the state, Alyssa Coble. Does anybody know Alyssa Coble? She's certified Kathee advanced levels. It's Koble, Alyssa Coble. If you have an opportunity to ever see her or talk to her about elementary choirs, she's the world's greatest. Doreen Rao is another conductor of children's choirs, and her last name is R-A-O. See, there's no reason for me to just keep all this stuff boxed up in my head, so I don't bother to use my website. All right, so, any other questions about anything up to here? Well, let's answer the questions you wanted to answer. How do you deal with the changing male voice? This is something you may not have control over, but the secret is to start early. And by that I mean make sure that the elementary school program is getting boys to sing. Because if they've been singing in elementary school, then they come right through that beginning changing in 5th and 6th grade, and they're more likely, if they've had a whole 6 years of singing, to join chorus and to carry on through middle school and then into high school. All right, so let's say you're going to teach middle school boys. You're going to have a voice soprano 1 week, and the next week he could be first bass. It happens. Bingo. And so you've got to be prepared to help him through that transition. And if he has never sung in his head voice, it will take him so much longer to find this new voice. So when I taught middle school, I had everybody sing head voice range. D major is a good range, and when their voices are changing, they still have, my son went through this too, and he was in the Atlanta Boy Choir. If you start them on the high D and say, now sing it with the girls. I did it with my men's ensemble at Sequoia. Make them sing in head voice and stay in head voice as long as they can on the way down. All right, everybody in the room, including the guys. Ready? Way on up there. Okay, you got the idea? And do that every day. Every day. Eventually they'll find the 6 notes that they don't have. Adolescent boys will have about 6 notes that just aren't there. So you quietly say, could you stay after class, stay after school, something? Say, I know this is really hard on you. I know that you're going through a transition period. And so when you get to those notes that are not yours right now, just do the best you can, sing softly. Because if they don't sing softly, they go into monotone. And then you're really messed up, because you've got this voice that's louder than everybody else's for a while, singing nothing. That would be my suggestion for adolescents. remember the embarrassment. You know how you felt, guys, when your voice changed and you started to talk and all of a sudden it went, frog. Make a joke of it. Not a chiding joke, but, have everybody in the room do it. So it takes away the attention from the creek. And give them permission to creak or croak or whatever. Any questions about that? Any other questions about the male voice? Moving on. What is the most efficient way to determine an individual's voice part? I wrote all of this out and I thought, gosh, I hope they don't ever do this on the first day that they're teaching. Don't go into a brand new school and try this. I know from experience, it doesn't work.
She doesn't mean a brand new school. She means a brand new situation. Going to your school is brand new. It doesn't have to be a first year school. Don't go in at the beginning of the school year, first year.
Yeah.
First
Hi,
year.
my name is Miss Williams. All right, would everybody stand up and make a circle? And would you sing by yourself now? They're not going to do it. All right, so I've kind of tweaked this through the years, but this is the way when I start an ensemble. This is the way I find their voice parts. Just ask them to spread out around the room, guys on this side, girls on this side, or vice versa, whatever you hear best. And then start with a group. So, okay, girls, y'all can sit down for a while. Here are the guys. Now, would you all sing this vocally, sing something, do, re, mi, row, row, row your boat? Your initial hearing, you're going to scream some of them immediately. But then you're going to do an exercise that goes up and spirals up. And you say to them, move to the right. If you're still singing with me, move to the right. So your higher voices are going to end up on the right. Your lower voices are going to end up on the left. Then sometimes they're going to move when their best friend is standing next to them, whether they have that note or not. So you have to start listening, not asking them to sing a solo, but listen to them singing and walk up and down in front of them. That's easy enough to do. And then you'll know whether somebody's just standing next to somebody that they like, if they're having pitch issues, or if they think there's something they're not. So that's the first step. And then once you've done that, I've got them all down here. You can narrow it down to sopranos, altos, tenors, basses, and actually put them again in an order so that when you have altos that have higher ranges, they're going to, in the circle, be right next to the sopranos, lower to higher. And if you need more altos on something, then you say to those 5 sopranos, on this piece sing alto, please. If you need more sopranos, you say to these 5 altos, would you sing soprano on this measure? It's very easy to divide them when you know exactly where they stand in range. Now, with high school, and especially with middle school voices, you have to do that at least twice a year. Maybe in middle school, I would suggest doing it 3 or 4 times a year because their voices change. The girls' voices change just like the guys do. It's just not as abrupt. Then you've got them and you say, okay, I think I know who's going to be soprano, who's going to be alto, tenor, bass. So then you start by asking each of the sections. You divide them up. You ask them to sing a major scale. Go. Do, re, sing. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. And back down, all right? Now, when you get to the top, just come right back down. Don't stop at the top. Okay, go. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, si, la, sol, fa, mi, re, do. Okay, all the basses in the room start, and every 2 beats, we're going to start in a round. Bass, do not have to have the same number of people in every section. You have to have the same volume in every section. That's why when adult choirs, you look and say, oh my gosh, there are only 2 tenors. Okay. Because tenors can pretty much carry, 2 tenors can carry up to 12 sopranos. And 20 altos, you know. So it depends on the voices that you have. That's how you're going to get a more blended sound. And there are times when you're teaching in a public school setting when you're never going to have a balanced sound because you just don't have the voices. And that's when you make altos sing tenor and, you know, all those kinds of crazy things. The last year I taught at Sequoia singers sat in a circle the entire rehearsal time. And that was probably the best thing that we ever did. First of all, it kept everybody on task because I was in the circle too, and I could see everybody. Nobody could hide behind anybody else with their phone or anything. And they also could hear each other better. And so the blend really took a turn that last year. It's just a suggestion, but I highly recommend sitting in a circle, have the lowest voice, or well, you could swap them, but I'm left-handed, so I wanted my low bass right here and my first soprano right here. Bass, tenor, alto, soprano. That was great. Okay, any questions about finding your voice part?
One of the things I like to insert, when you said the circle thing, the last high school I taught, the choral director, do you know Mary Williams?
Yep.
Okay, very talented boy. Mary would do unusual things from time to time, most of the time. But one of the days, in our, where our band rooms were, below us, we're down at the end of the gymnasium. Below us was the dressing room, men's room, women's room, and vice versa. But below the, whichever one was the larger of the two, this guy took his top group one night, and during either one of my rehearsals or a playing period or something, I kept hearing the choir from below me. What he had done is he had taken the choir down into the dressing room, where it was a different acoustical setting. He had them stand all around the walls of the, he just made somebody stand at the door, make sure the women didn't come back from the women's dressing room, while he had everybody down there. But they all around the walls in the dressing room so that he could hear, he wanted them to hear differently and experience a different ambiance than the dead rehearsal rooms. He took them down into the dressing room and showers and stuff.
You know what I'm thinking of? The day that we took the vocal jazz group in the bathroom. Yeah, that was a hoot.
And what was the reason for doing this?
Just sound.
Hear a different way.
Because there's so much vibrancy in the bathroom
Singing in the
with all
shower.
that cow. Yeah, it was fun. Some of them were highly uncomfortable with that. Okay, what are your preferred choir warm-ups? Tim Seelig says the first thing you do is something physical. Okay, sponge, shoulders, jumping jacks, stretching. The last couple of years, I pulled the hokey pokey out. Do the hokey pokey. It gets them going, and they're singing while they're going. And they're laughing, and they're loving everything. Seelig says that the way to build a choir is to make sure that they laugh themselves out the door every day. And then especially if they're going to lunch, what are you laughing about? What was so funny? Well, in chorus today we did And let me tell you, recruitment is crucial. And there's not always an easy answer to it, especially in today's world. That's another hour speech. I won't start today. All right, 5 Italian vowel sounds. What are they? E, O, U. Okay. Do something that gets your choir singing pure vowels, each of those 5, in your rehearsal warm-ups. The E vowel that I do And I learned this from Rodney Eichenberger, who used to be at the University, oh no, at Florida State University. Sing an E with rounded lips, not E, but E. Yeah. So do a sol fa mi re do, coming down, start on E major, and just this is a very relaxing way to start a rehearsal. A lot of times I'll start with my hum-ahs too. You start with a hum. I read this in a book called The Tao of Voice. If you're into Taoism or meditation or anything like that, this book is awesome. I don't remember who the author is, but it's The Tao of Voice. But, sorry. You talk to the kids about relaxing everything in your facial muscles. Everything just falls open. Like you fell asleep in the back of the car, and your mouth flies open, drooling, you know. Okay, so you start with a hum, and then they physically relax, and it becomes an ah. And then as you're expelling the breath, you can crescendo, once they get used to it, you can crescendo into it, you can maybe move out of it. And it produces a very relaxed ah. Also, for some reason, it makes people want to yawn, and therefore you've already engaged the soft palate. Everybody yawn. Okay. The whole is good for breath control. By the way, speaking of breath control, if you want to do a really good physical warm-up, hands under the rib cage, take a deep breath and hold it, and while you're holding it, sway from side to side. This engages the muscles across here, and they are translateral. Is that what you say? And I try not to say diaphragm, because it's not just the diaphragm. It's all these muscles. Get strong abs. Be in choir. So we already talked about the men beginning with a high do and coming down. That's a good way to warm them up. Use these curling hand signs. Can y'all do these now? Okay. Get them in. Learn them. They're fun. Then there's something about doing something with it. You know, we sing. Our instrument's in here. So there are no fingerings. There are no patterns. There are no fingers. It's just okay? So the guy had something in mind. When you sing this, you're singing do. You can relate all of these signs to something that you know. And with my kindergartners at Bascom Elementary School, when I did this in the classroom, they sing a G every single time. Because for months, I would go over that with them, and I would always start them on a G for so. And so and me are the first two. Golly, Pete, there's so much I want to tell you. Start with, if you're elementary people, start with so and me, and then add la. So me, la, so me. And then they figure out that you're saying lasso me, and they'll bring a rope and, you know. Or sofa. They love sofa. And it's me, so me, la, do, and then re, and then fa, and the last one's T. That's the sequence for teaching melody. And you can use that in your high school choir, and forget the hand signs, because they look at you weird when you do it. Yeah.
Could you said that
And the reason they could is that I specifically chose literature that zeroed in on that. I didn't ask them to sing 16th notes in the first grade. And that leads me into the next question, not the next question, but the next to the next question. Real quick, take a copy of this. And I want you, just by looking at what's in the music, to decide what kind of choir can sing this. And this is basically the way I approach the literature that I choose. And what that means is that you got to know a lot of literature before you can figure that out. Oh, do you need to? Any extras? You can get in my head. Okay, first thing, do you have the voices? So, look quickly. How many divisi are there in this? Who divides? We got tenor and bass, but no divisi within sections except for the sopranos, correct? Okay. Do you have enough sopranos and or altos that you can make a girls trio? Yes, no? That if it's no, put it away. Don't even listen to it. Because you're going to fall in love with it and then say, oh, but maybe they can do it. And you're forcing, oh, the other thing you can do is to say, can I eliminate that divisi? Is the voicing such that somebody else has that note? Or is it a ninth chord that you need to have every note in? Okay, so are there staggered entrances or is it pretty homophonic? A little bit of both. But guys are the slowest to pick up something new, but they're the quickest to learn it. I'm going to say that again. Guys are the slowest to pick up something new, but they're the quickest to learn it. My men's ensemble would just for days, and then they would have it, and it was memorized. My women would say, oh, we can do this, and they never quite learned it until it was time to perform. Okay, so those are questions you ask. Do you have an accompanist that can handle the accompaniment? All right, let's look melodically and chord structure. Are there any weird things? Are there weird intervals? Are there strange chords? That's the next question. Then the next question is there anything in here rhythmically that they have not learned or that they couldn't learn?
Probably haven't learned triplets yet.
And this would be a great piece of music to introduce quarter note triplets. And you could have them all over the room, half of them doing half notes, and the other half doing triple T, triple T, triple T, triple T. And that would be great. And when they accomplish that, and I say that because everybody in the choir has it together in every instance. See, these are the kinds of things you look for. Now, text, it's in English. Is it a text that a middle school choir would understand? Probably not. Is it a text that, well, it's not a song that a middle school could do unless they were really, really advanced vocally, because there's some pretty extreme ranges. Okay, so the next thing I've noticed about this piece is that the men's part is much easier than the women's part. So this would work well, wouldn't it? Be great, because, I've got guys that have never been in chorus before and who aren't matching pitch still, but some of my women are bored. So I just wanted you to look at a piece. Now we're going to sing it real quick. shut them out, or they'll drop your class. I don't know if you know Jordan Nunnally. Okay, she has the most powerful, gorgeous, wonderful country voice. And, I love to hear her sing. But early on, she adapted to choral sounds and made one of the best altos I ever had in my advanced choir. So she had ways of doing everything. And that's what you want. You want versatility. You don't want people who can only sing choral music. You don't want, especially middle school kids, You've got to get in there and rap with them. You've got to let them lead you. One of the things that I used to do is to pull out 10 pieces of music that I really wanted to do and have the choir side with them and pick their top 5. And those are the pieces we did. Unless, maybe once or twice, I said, we're going to do my song or nothing. But I asked them to do it for me, not for them. So key in to what turns them on, and you will be amazed because the first time my choirs heard Eric Whittaker, they were all over it. And that's good choral music. They have a good sense of what needs to be done. That's high school. Middle school, you pretty much got to tell them. Let's see. How to approach someone who cannot make pitch. All right. Little secret that Ruth Dwyer, who is, if you're interested in children's music for choirs, Ruth Dwyer's compositions are fabulous. You receive through your left ear. So if you have a non-singer, put your best singer on their left. Okay? And they will, and then say to them, you're having some trouble with pitch. So if you'll just listen real hard to the person on your left, I think you can hear. Now I gotta say, if you start with the babies, if you start in kindergarten, and you do sol, mi, sol, mi, sol, mi, sol, mi, every day, at least 10 minutes out of every class that which is once a week. Whenever you see them, if you do that, when my kindergartners left, there were usually only 1 or 2 children out of 400 who didn't match pitch. If you have someone who doesn't match pitch, it's because somebody has never been patient enough to help them find their voice. And if you can do it, they will bless you forever. I had a kid who was 6'6", he was a Creek Indian, had never been off the reservation, came into my middle school class and sang this note, everything was this note. And everybody said, oh my gosh, please get him out of our class, he can't sing. And I said, just be patient. He made all-state chorus his freshman year in high school. Okay. So don't turn them off. Don't say, this kid can't. They've got to have a chance. And please, I'm begging you, remember this woman's pleading look right here. Do not ever tell a child not to sing. I had an autistic kid who was in my voice choir who did this throughout every song and sang every note right. He was wonderful. Now he's in the Etowah Advanced Chorus. And some of his teachers said, he's embarrassing us. Don't make him stand up there on the stage and do that. And I said, why not? Some students do this when they sing. Just a little bit more open with it. And I am so glad that I did not say, you can't be in my choir, you can't stand still. Okay, so think about being open-minded. And the perfect group, the perfect sound is not always the best education.
send you the